Man to man, combat hand to hand, hands locked, ready for the last stand, elbow drops, kicks fade bang. If I connect you, levitate, better settle mate, lights out, knocked out by the heavyweight.
Hi, this is Toby from Heavyweight MMA. Today with Jason the Warrior Whateley, accomplished amateur boxer turned professional, rising in the ranks, man. Welcome. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, mate. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Now, looking back, just for anyone listening in your amateur career, you achieved like big heights, man. You fought in the Olympics, 2016 Olympics in Brazil, 2018 Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast, and also at the 2011 Arafura Games. You captured gold in the Arafura Games and silver at the Commonwealth Games, right?
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah. I had some good memories in the amateurs, that's for sure, and some good fights to represent Australia. I think also 3 world championships and travelled to heaps of different countries representing Australia. So, yeah, it was a great time, some great memories, and, proud of what I did, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, as you mentioned, you fought all around the world, right? Like just from what I was reading and listening to, China, Rio, Brazil, Kazakhstan, Doha, Hamburg, Cuba, New Caledonia, New Zealand, Germany. You're probably a couple other ones that are not mentioned in there. Pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, man, that's it. Like, a lot of these places that I wouldn't have dreamt of going ever in my life. So, to be taken there with boxing, it was, like I said, I sort of got to go and experience something that I normally wouldn't have got to experience, and especially doing something that I love was, it was pretty cool. So, yeah, I look back on it now and real proud of it and just happy that I got to do that.
Did you get a chance, like in these journeys to these places, did you get a chance to actually like look around and actually enjoy the place, or is it just strictly like focused on fighting?
Some you sort of got to go and have a bit of a look around and a bit of a look at it. I know when we were in China, the team got to go and do the Great Wall, but I didn't get to do it because I was competing the next day. And I heard it was a big walk, so I was like, I wanted to save my legs. So a pretty important fight. So I was for the Olympic qualifier. So I was like, I didn't get to go and do that. But, some of the other countries you get to have a look around, like Cuba, for example. I went there twice and just unbelievable, just a real culture shock, that's for sure. Like, just living in a different world over there. It was crazy. Back, especially when I was there 2010, and then I went back 2013. Yeah, it was crazy. So, like I said, mate, some of the experiences I've had through boxing has been unbelievable. In
Cuba, so what was the difference over there in Cuba compared to Australia?
Oh, mate, it's just like, so when like America left them, it's sort of they stopped there. Like the buildings were really old and they sort of haven't been upgraded or updated or anything like that. And even the cars driving around were like 60s and 70s cars. And we were going and training in a horse and cart. And like, it was just crazy, mate. It was insane. A lot of the boxers over there was boxing in barefoot, and, the facilities were punching, like tires wrapped on like sort of frames. And then like even so we had like steel frames, and then they'd just wrap like rubber around it and then tie it up with wire. Like that's their boxing bag. So it's just a real culture shock, mate. And it was, but it just goes to show too, because they're the best in the world, that your equipment doesn't always mean everything. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, that's actually quite an amazing thing, right? That they achieved those massive heights without all the fancy sort of equipment and stuff. Amazing.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. We went and trained like where Savon trained in Guantanamo, and there was just like a little hall that just had like old broken tiles on the ground. There was a ring right up in the corner, but it was like it had been torn down, so there was just basically a ring frame. And like I said, there was just these sort of boxing bags were sort of hanging around that were tires and bits of tube, bits of rubber sort of tied up in a tube. That was their facilities. And then they had like a dirt track that they sort of just made around an oval. And, and these guys, like Savon won, what did he win? 6 world championships, 3 Olympic gold medals. He's one of the most successful amateurs ever. And this is where he started. So it's pretty crazy to think about.
On Felix Savon, he didn't, he was just stayed in amateurs, didn't he? Did he actually venture to professional? I don't think he did he?
No, he didn't. No, like I said, he won 6 world championships. 3 Olympic gold medals as well.
Yeah, amazing. Actually, talking about famous boxers, man. I don't know if you saw the news today. With actually, I read one of your heroes was Tyson. Did you see Tyson in the news?
I did, mate. I did. I just watched it before, and look.
So he's punching a guy in a plane.
why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, of all the people, I know that he's changed his ways now, but it's only so much you can cop if he's sitting there copping shit too, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, so he's on a plane, but annoying guy behind him, right? The guy behind him is annoying him, and he snapped by the look of it.
I think he said some pretty inappropriate things too by some of the videos I saw. So, like I said, he wouldn't be the one that I'd pick on, that's for sure.
For sure, man. I mean, sometimes, these guys have got a limit at the base. He's a fighter, right? So, you got to keep that in mind, So
that's exactly right. And back when he fought, man, he was a brutal fighter. Like, it was just relentless. So, you can't always take that all the way out of him. As much as he's changed, and I love him for it, how fierce he was. You can't take that all the way out of him. I don't think there's always going to be a little bit hanging in there.
Have you ever had a chance to meet him, man?
Nah, you know what? I was actually talking to a bloke just at the gym before. I reckon he'd be the only bloke in the world I'd be starstruck by. I reckon. I'd be like, that's Mike Tyson. Like I said to him before, I don't know why anyone would be giving him shit. I'd ask him politely for a photo, and if he said no, I'd just walk away. Like, he just wouldn't be the one he'd pick on, would he?
Actually, talking about being starstruck with Tyson, bro. I'm working in security, and I had 2 times that he was around, and one time he was at this event, and then after the event, I was helping to escort him down to the car park. A lot of fans and that. We get to the car park. It's me and a small team. The small team kind of moved away, and Tyson's standing there, just me and him standing there. He's like a couple of meters away from me. For him, I'm thinking in my head, fuck, that's fucking Mike Tyson, man. That's Mike Tyson. Like, I'm not normally starstruck, but I follow fighting, man. So that's like one of my heroes too. And he's standing there. I'm like, fuck, I should ask him for a photo or something. I'm looking at him, and he had this mean ass look on his face. Looked like you wouldn't fuck with him, man. I'm thinking, he doesn't look like he wants someone to talk to him. I think I'll just let it go, But I feel disappointed, eh?
I think I would have been the same, mate. Like I said, he's not the one. I don't know why a bloke would be picking on him on a plane. He just doesn't seem like he's the one that would be fucking around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The second time he came too, he was here for these film awards, and he was involved in this Chinese film. I don't know if you saw it. It was called Ip Man. I don't know what number, but
I saw snippets of it. Yeah.
Yeah, in that one, and he was up here for some Chinese movie awards, and he's up on stage with a Chinese comedian, and the comedian's like giving him a bit of shit, and he's getting a bit upset, and he's calling it. It's like a live event. He's calling him a dickhead and stuff live, and I'm looking at my mate going, "Are we gonna have to actually go and try and restrain Mike Tyson in a minute?" I hope not. Anyway,
I was going to say, you'd nearly just let him go, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so, man. That would have been probably death for me if I had. Yeah. Anyway, bro, back to the topic at hand. So looking now, you've started off in your professional career very, very successfully, man. 10 fights for 10 wins with 9 stoppages, right?
Yeah.
Also wanted to double check your amateur record, man. It's hard to find it online. I saw in one article it said you had 95 fights, but that was within your career. So do you have a record or no?
No, I don't really know what it is off by hand. If I told you, I'd be making it up. I think I ended up getting up to, I had 97 fights.
Yeah.
And then I had a few people, 97 or 98 amateur fights. And then I had a few people, that doesn't include like exhibitions or anything like that. That was the proper fights. I had a few people go, why don't you just have the last couple? And I'm like, I'm not trying, like, when you're at that level, you're not going to go and just have an easy fight. You know what I mean? You're going to have to train, put in, and then struggle to get an opponent. Like, so I was like, nah, it's time to turn pro. Like, after I'd finished at the Olympics, everyone was like, why don't you turn pro? But I'd actually missed out on 2 Commonwealth Games. So it was sort of the last thing I hadn't checked off the list. And I went, nah, I'm going to hang around. I'm going again. I've got to make it. So 3rd time lucky, I made the Commonwealth Games. And then, after that, it was time to turn pro.
Man, that was a great thing. It showed your dedication just to the art, you know what I mean? Because you could have moved up and gone to some, like, looked at just trying to start your monetary career off in boxing, but you've actually stuck around and just tried to reach that goal, which is a great goal. And you in the Commonwealth Games were silver medalist, so it's a big achievement, right?
Yeah, man. You know what? Like, it was in Australia, and it was an awesome experience coming in and having the home crowd behind me. So I'm really glad I've done it. I just felt like one of the biggest things that motivates me as a fighter, and anything I do really, is having regret. I think it's the biggest thing that worries me. So I always thought, if I didn't do it, I'll regret it. I could try and make money later on. And if I had not made the Commonwealth Games team, then I could live with that. I could have gone, well, at least I had a crack. You know what I mean? But I think anything that I try and do, I always think about that. Regret's the biggest motivation I have, is I never want to have to live with regret. So that's all it was. I was just like, nah, I've got to have one more go at it. I'm on top of the game in Australia at the moment, so I'm going to have one more crack, and just grateful that I got there in the end.
And at the end of the day, when you go into your professional career with that sort of experience you can draw on, it leaves you in better stead too, right? Like you're going to do better with that sort of background of extensive amateur boxing, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly right. I wanted to sort of hit the ground running when I come from the pros. So I've been fighting the world stage for, about 8 years. I think I started fighting on the international stage at the end of 2010. Oh, I started 2010 maybe. So about 10 years on the international stage fighting, fighting some of the world's best fighters. So I wanted to try and hit the ground running in the pros, but it's not always that, I'm trying to get good opponents pretty quickly and try and keep that momentum going. But the pros is hard. It's a bit more of a business, and it's not like the amateurs where you just rock up and you fight whoever you're told to. You know what I mean? Like you don't. Yeah. There's no business sort of involved. You just rock up to the fights, you fight whoever's there. That's who you're fighting, and it's not like that in the pros, mate. You don't really get that same sort of people ducking each other. There's politics goes on. This promoter won't work with that one, so that's been hard in the pros as well. But I would have liked to have hit the ground running and really just got some really good opponents straight away, but it's not the way it goes.
And also your timing as well, right? Like you've kind of kicked off and had all the COVID cases come up and everything, and that's really got to have been a disruption to your plans. Like you said, you like to have around 6 fights a year if you could, but you only had 2 last year, right? And then 1 this year so far, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. And then I had none in 2020. So, yeah, obviously that's been really hard. And then, like you said, we couldn't travel or anything. So we had some opportunities arise from fighters overseas asking for sparring and that sort of stuff, but we couldn't do it. So, even Joseph Parker had reached out. His team reached out and wanted me to go over and do sparring with him before he fought Junior Far. And we're about to just board the plane. Let's see.
Back. There we go.
All right,
yep. So
yeah,
I was
about to board the plane on I think it was the Thursday, and then we got a call on the Wednesday. They wouldn't let us go because we're from Melbourne. So New Zealand wouldn't let us go over. So the government sort of said, "No, can't come because you're in a hot spot." So things like that were pretty disappointing because that would have been great. And I was actually going to fight on the undercard as well. So that was disappointing. We had opportunities like that arise that, we would have jumped at. We would have loved to have been involved, but, circumstances didn't permit it. So it was a bit disappointing.
What gym's Joseph Parker training out of?
I don't know. He was training. Who was he training with then? I'm not too sure. He's over in England now, but This was going to be in New Zealand. This was before the Junior Far fight. Was he training with, is it Kevin Barry?
I'm not sure, man. I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think he was. I think he's left him now.
Yep. So, man, just jumping back to the differences, man, you mentioned about changing from amateur to professional. Like you said, it's a different sort of game, not as easy to get opponents and that. What other sort of things are different, like for you as a fighter, changing from amateur to pro?
Probably, obviously, you've got the distance in the fights, but it's probably always been, I've been a lot more suited to the professional style. I'm an endurance athlete, so I'm not a fast starter. I sort of take my time to roll into things, even running, whatever I do, I'm more of an endurance athlete. So it's more suited to me anyway. It was probably doing the 3-minute round, the 3-minute rounds in the amateurs was probably, I was trying to force that to try and get good at that. I sort of had to make a lot of changes and really tried to adjust to that. So I'm more suited to the pros, but that would be the biggest difference is obviously your duration of the round, how many rounds you're fighting and that sort of stuff. That's your biggest difference. And you just got a little bit more time in the pros to sort of work people out, set traps, and you're able to sort of, try and find that one shot that might be able to knock someone out. You know what I mean? Like we can sort of start looking at trying to set that up rather than in the amateurs. It's just you flat out from straight away. From the first bell to the last bell, it's flat out. So, I mean, you still get great boxing in, don't get me wrong, but you don't have that sort of time to set things up and really take your time a little bit. You can afford in the pros to lose a couple of rounds here and there. In the amateurs, you lose a round, you're really playing catch up.
Yeah, man. And you mentioned in one of your interviews something about sparring differences. What did you mean by that?
Just once again, doing the rounds and trying to find sparring partners. You know, most of my fights are 10-round fights at the moment. So it's just trying to find sparring partners to get that 10 rounds in. You know what I mean? It's quite hard to get that. But that's probably, like I said, it'll be the amount of rounds that you're doing. That's your biggest difference. Is going from, you know, you want to try and train pretty close stuff, pretty similar to what you're fighting. So, you know, in the amateurs, you're probably doing 4 rounds, or you might do a set of 3 rounds, then have a break and do another set of 3 rounds. Where in the pros, you're trying to get that 10 rounds out in your sparring. So that's probably your big difference. And then just your work rate differs from that.
Yeah, man. Hey, with that increase in sparring, are you having any concerns about like head contact and CTE and that? Is there anything you do in particular that can kind of help you to, you know, minimize that risk?
Look, I don't have too much. I probably should have more or worry about that sort of stuff. But I'm not too phased about all that sort of thing. I haven't looked into it too much, but we're pretty careful too. It's not like we're getting smashed in sparring. Like, we're starting to have a few hard spars. You might back it off a little bit. You know what I mean? Just got to read your body. And you know, I trust my coach, Marcus Amato. You know, he's able to keep an eye on that sort of thing and make adjustments accordingly.
Yep. And your style is pretty defensively sound too, right? Like, so that's going to help you in that aspect as well, right? You're not just walking in and getting smashed in the head, yeah?
Well, look, mate, I'll try not to, that's for sure. I'll try not to. I'll try to get the hands up, that's for sure. But, you know, like I said, you just have to sort of read what you get, you know what I mean? Like, if you're having hard spars and you are getting sort of, you know, like I said, not every day is a good day for you. Sometimes you do get smashed sparring and you do cop some big shots, and then you just have to, you know, like I said, make adjustments accordingly. So, but most of the time my defense isn't too bad, so I'm not normally getting smashed around too much. But hopefully the people close to me can tell me if I'm getting dumber, mates, and then we'll pull the pin on it.
Understood. Man, and just recently you had a win against Savanaka and Naliva.
Yeah.
How was that fight for you?
Yeah, it was just, look, mate, it was just good to get back in there. I think it's been about 10 months since I last fought, so it was good to get back in there. We struggled a lot to get an opponent for this fight, so it was once again just good to get in there and get it done. I started off, I was a little bit rusty, but you know, I was able to read him in that first round and noticed he was always ducking down to his right, so I sort of feinted a jab and then caught him flush with an uppercut and sparked him out, mate, which was good. So I was happy with that. That's sort of what I'm in there to do. So I was happy with the outcome.
Man, you seem to be sparking a lot of people. In boxing, I know boxing's known for things like padding records and that. How do you feel about your opponents thus far? Do you feel like that's padding the record a bit, or they're legit opponents? Just, I don't know enough about boxing, so just asking the question.
I've had some good fights. And then I've had some that aren't so good that I'm obviously not proud of. You know, even my last opponent, he had a good record, but probably wasn't a big test for me. So that's what I mean earlier. I would have liked to have hit the ground running in the pros and got some harder fights and get that momentum rolling and being able to see where I can go. But there has been a couple that are a bit padded probably, and it's probably known through no fault of our own, or it's so hard to get opponents. And like I said before, there's so much politics involved in it. And this promoter won't work with that one. And this guy doesn't want this guy to fight him. And then that one wants to keep his record straight. You know what I mean? So There's a lot of that sort of shit goes on. And it's a shame, man. It's like you see in the UFC, for example, there's that one governing body that says you're fighting him. And if you keep knocking him back, then you're out. You know what I mean? So that'd be great. And you know, I always say it's one of my favourite sayings. Someone said it to me the other day. It was up to the fighters. You put 2 fighters in a room to do a negotiation, it'll be done in 2 minutes, mate. The fight will be done. But unfortunately, it's not up to us, and we sort of get told that we're fighting, and it's not like we're going around picking out. See, there he is. I'll fight that guy. He's not very good. Do you know what I mean? It's got nothing to do with us. So we sort of just jump in. We're just sort of. We cop the backlash for it, but it's not our fault. You know, and sometimes, like I said, it's not even our team's fault. It's hard to get opponents. It's not like we're in America or somewhere where there's a lot of different countries next to each other and we can pick that guy or there's not a heap of competition either. So you know, it does get hard. And like I said, it's a business. So the promoter doesn't want to pay heaps of money to bring someone over either. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. But I'd say, but back to the question, I'd say some of my record is definitely padded. But I have had some good fights too. So like I said, I want some good tests now. So I really want to jump up and really get some good fights in.
Yeah, I had a little look at the record of the guys that you fought, and they look better than some, you know, some records that you look at. It's like people just fighting guys that have lost more than they've won a lot, you know. But your record's not like that. Like your guy, the last guy was 14 wins, 3 losses, so that's not a bad record. Even though he wasn't up to your level, it's still not a bad record, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, you know, it's like I said, it's hard, man. It's like a lot of people go, "Oh, you can't be proud of this and all of that." It's like, I can only get in a fight you put in front of me, and that's what I am, mate. I'll literally, my coach will go, "You're fighting this bloke." I'll fight anyone, anytime, mate. That's just the way I am. An old school fighter. I love it. I love fighting. I don't do boxing because I like to train, or, you know, like, I love fighting, full stop. I'd fight anywhere. If I got paid money to fight in the pub car park, mate, I'd go and do it. I love it. I love fighting, full stop. So my coach says to me, "This is who we're fighting." I just go, "Yep, no questions asked. Easy as." So, but it's not that simple. You know, so that's not the way it goes.
Yeah, man. There's a few guys I talk to that are like yourself. Like this, you're just basically a warrior. You know, you like the competition. You like fighting. You like learning fighting. You're happy to be traveling around, you know, through boxing and fighting. And it's just, you know, that's just who you are. Reminded me of Dan Hooker, actually. You must know him from the UFC. He's the same, man. He said, even if he wasn't where he's at, he'd still be doing the same thing. He'd still be traveling around. He'd still be fighting, even if he was living in gyms or whatever, you know?
Yeah, exactly right, mate. It was just lucky that I felt, you know, like my uncle sort of all boxed, and then my mum wanted me to box. And I grew up in the country and sort of just fell into boxing. But, you know, if I wasn't boxing, I'd be, you know, I might have done mixed martial arts. But, you know, where I grew up, there was none of that down there. It was, if I wasn't boxing, I'd be doing something where I had to fight. Like, I just love it. I love the competition of it. I love fighting, full stop, mate. I've been fighting since I was a kid, in school, everywhere I could, I'd fight. So, you know, I love it, mate. And then, you know, when you get sort of people having a crack going, "Oh, you wouldn't fight this guy," it's like, mate, I will fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. I love it. Yeah,
man. I was actually going to ask you about the upbringing, man. Like, so you said, you mentioned that you started in Aussie rules and that, and a bit of league maybe, and you said your uncle's boxed and your mum wanted you to box, but you started off with a coach called Neil Stiffy Reynolds and later on to Marcos Amato. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yep.
How did it kick off in the beginning? Like, you went straight to boxing, or did you try something else, or was just straight into that? Was the first combat sort of sport?
Yeah, that was the first combat sport I did. So, like I said to you, like, I got in a little bit of trouble when I was younger. I was charged with assault pretty early, about 13 years old, I think I was. And, like, I was just getting expelled from the school, fighting, and then, like, playing footy, I'd get in a fight. So, like, played Aussie rules. That was the main sport that I did when I was young.
Yeah.
And then growing up in the country, everyone plays Aussie rules down there. So they used to have there's a boxing gym in Bairnsdale. I grew up in Lakes Entrance, which is not too far away. And they had a tournament every year. And then they try and get 2 footballers from rival clubs to fight off against each other, because that would bring in a big crowd. Like I said, everyone followed it, everyone played it, rah. So my coach came to me. I was 17 at the time. He came and like I said, I always got myself into scrap. So he came and he goes, "Mate, they've asked us to pick out a bloke who would have a fight. Would you be interested?" I'm like, 100%. Put me down. Like, so went and trained at one gym, and then there was 2 gyms in Bairnsdale, and they picked another bloke from another rival club, and then we trained up at separate gyms. And then at the end of that, we had a proper amateur fight against each other on the end of the show. And I knocked him out in the 3rd round and fell in love with the sport and gave footy away, and I haven't looked back since.
The rest is history, right? Hey, so what's your reason for fighting or whatever? Like, I know you said you like to fight. Do you have any background on it? Do you think, like, what do you get out of it?
No, man, I just love fighting. Hey, like, it's keeps me out of trouble. Like, I'm a better person when I'm doing it. That's for sure. So it's like, I've got my missus. If I haven't been sparring or something like that, she's like, "Fuck off, back to the gym. Go and do some sparring. You're doing me head in." Like, she's like, "Your temper's go. You need to go and start sparring again." Even my mum does it. Like, "Mum, so if I'm starting to get the shits about something," she's like, "You need to start sparring again. You need to go and punch someone and do something." So it's like it makes me a better person doing it. I really enjoy it. I've made some of the best memories of my life boxing. And met, some of my best friends that I'll be mates with for life. Like Daniel Lewis, I went to the Olympic Games with. He'll be one of my best mates for life. Harry Garside, who just went to the last Olympics and got a medal. He's another one. He's one of my best mates. So, I've made lifelong friends, and I'm grateful for the sport. And now it's a part of me. I run a boxing gym. I box all the time. It's all I do, mate. Eat, sleep, drink, boxing. That's all I do. So now it's become my life. Whereas before, I just love fighting and love getting in. And that was my way of sort of having that release and being able to do it without getting yourself in strife. But now it's become my whole life.
Yeah, that's it, man. For your general person too, I think it can be a good outlet, right? Like, you go and have a good train, no matter what it is, whether it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, Thai boxing, MMA, whatever. You go and have a good training session. You come out of there without that aggression, right? You can go to work and 100%. Deal with people without wanting to punch them or whatever,
Well, mate, the funniest story, and they're very humbling sports. I get a lot of people coming to a gym like, everyone's so lovely in here. I'm like, mate, you know what? You'll never say never, but it's very rare that you'll find a dickhead in a boxing gym because they'll get bashed in there. Like, It's such a humbling sport. If you go in there with an attitude, there's going to be someone in that gym that'll be a bit better than you, especially when you're starting out, and you'll get found out quickly, and they normally leave them sort of people. So, like, I remember when I first walked into the gym in Bairnsdale, Stiffy goes to me, he goes, and I was playing footy, and I'd run an extra day here and there, and I thought I was fit, and I was 17, like I said. I thought I could fight, thought I was a tough guy. So these are the questions that he asked me when I walked in. He goes, "You fit?" I was like, "Yeah, mate, I'm fit." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, can you fight?" I said, "Yeah, I can fight." He goes, "All right, jump in." So my first thing I did was sparring. And I was about 100 kilos at the time. I was a big kid. And he put me into spar with a bloke who would have been lucky to be 60.
Yeah.
And he punched the piss out of me. And I just remember thinking, like, walking out and just going, fuck, I can't fight and I am not fit. I was exhausted. I've been bashed. It was my first 5 minutes in the gym.
Yeah, man. I think people don't understand, like, each sport has its own kind of energy system, right? So, a boxer goes and plays a game, AFL, it's going to be pretty hard for him and vice versa, right? Like, and you watch these guys like yourself that are fighting, 10, 12 rounds. And it's kind of a superhuman effort when you've actually tried, you've gone to the gym and tried, and you can feel it. You're like, even if you're a fit boxer, to get in there and do that is kind of superhuman. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But like you said, man, it's whatever you sort of get used to. So when you're not used to it, you sort of walk in and you go, fuck, how do they do that for 12 rounds? Like, it just blows your mind.
Yeah.
But, that's sort of what happened there, mate. That was a learning experience. But like I said, mate, everyone that I'm like, most people in boxing gyms are great people. And because like I said, it's a very humbling experience for you when you're walking into one, that's for sure. But,
that's it, man. And
like you said, it is such a good release. Like, you walk out of the gym too feeling refreshed and happy, and so yeah, it's a good place for that as well.
Yeah, man. Hey, so you just mentioned about Stiffy, and you already mentioned other interviews about your other trainer, and you've also trained at AIS and Boxing Australia. You've traveled around the world. Do you feel like there's enough where you are to get the care that you need, the sparring partners that you need, or do you think it'd be something you'd explore in the future, going to another country to train?
I'd love to go. I'd love to keep traveling. That's sort of something that I've wanted to do. Like, I'll try and travel when I can. If I get the opportunity, I'll try and take it. But it's hard to get the good quality sparring in. Like, I'm pretty lucky in Melbourne at the moment. There's some good heavyweights getting around, but and I'm able to get some good rounds in. So it's not too bad. But to take that next step, it'll be, I'd love to be able to start doing some camps overseas and stuff like that. But once again, it's hard financially doing that sort of stuff as well. But, when there's a will, there's a way. There's ways around things like that. But it's just trying to get the opportunities. It'll be ideal to be able to get over there and get some good sparring in, and even learn from different coaches. And, I try and learn from everybody. Listen to what everyone has to say, take in what works for you and throw out the rest, but always always listen to everything that everyone says, especially different coaches. You can learn from everyone.
Yeah, man. Hey, on your current training, man, I heard you say that you mix everything in. So you're working at the same time as training. In between fights like now, what would your current sort of schedule be for just keeping yourself in the right shape, but also managing your business?
I'll try and focus. So, like, I'll have a couple of weeks now sort of off training, but I'll still try and run. I might, I'll start probably getting a bit itchy hands soon, so I'll start going back and hitting the bag and that sort of thing. But at the moment, I'll try and put a little bit more focus into work, because obviously when I've got a fight camp coming up, especially, that last 6 weeks, probably, I'm just focused on that. Like, blinkers are on and I'm just worried about my fight. So the business sort of takes a bit of a back seat. So when I do finish fighting, I like to try and put all my focus back into it. I train fighters as well. So, I've got to try and put some focus in them as well, and, try and teach them as much as I can, and really try and give them as much as, they deserve, because it's hard for all fighters to get in there. So they need to get as much attention from me as they can. I try not to put them too much on the back seat. Even when I am fighting, I still try to give them as much as I can. Like Carly, my professional, she fought on Wednesday night and won the Australasian title. So, I had to keep focusing on her as well as myself in my lead up to my fight. But the main thing I do focus on is I try and put as much work in with my fighters now, and my clients, and build the gym back up, or build it up more, and then just sort of don't let myself go down too much, because it's too hard to come back to training if I'm unfit. Yeah,
you mentioned about having a difficult time after COVID, right? Like, you're off for a while, and you said you lost a little bit. I don't know if you put on a bit of weight, eating odd and stuff like that, and then coming back, you said it was really hard to get back in there. You had a sore body, right?
Yeah, I was just drinking too much over that time, mate. Drinking too much piss, and carrying on a little bit too much. So. And it's hard. Like, it's so hard to come back from that. Like, alcohol is poison. It's so bad for you. You don't realise it until, like, you're training all the time, and it has such an impact on your fitness. So that was what I was sort of talking about with that, with COVID. And I just I'm very goal driven. So I have to have goals in front of me. Otherwise, I can sort of lose motivation. And that's sort of what happened. I probably didn't deal with COVID as well as I would have liked to have. And it's probably as well as I thought I would have. But, I'm only human. These things happen. But that's the biggest thing as I've learned is don't just hit the piss too much and not train, because when you come back, you're going to pay for it. It doesn't taste as good going out as it does coming in.
True. Man, having such a busy schedule, not just focusing entirely on fighting, also focusing on running the gym. Do you still have much time to try and add in those little 1%ers? Everyone these days is doing different things, adding in, pretty decent strength and conditioning, rest and recovery, working on diet and nutrition and everything. How much time do you spend on that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I've got, I still put all that stuff in. My recovery, sometimes probably I'll let go a little bit, and that's just probably, I just don't make enough time for it as I should. But apart from that, I've got a good strength conditioning coach, Chris Moore. He helps me out with all my strength conditioning. He always does my diet and food plans and stuff like that. So, look, they're the 1%ers that I do put in. I always make time for that. So, I've always tried to pride myself on being a really hard trainer, and I always try and be the hardest worker in the room. And then, fight time, I always try and, have a really good output. I try and throw a lot of punches, very active fighter. So, it's very important to be training hard so I can bring that fight night.
On the off season sort of thing, like now, are you still concentrating on nutrition? Is it only one paddle pop a day, or you have a few more, bro?
Mate, I have a whole box, mate. Don't worry about that. The paddle pops go out the window. 80 calorie paddle pop. I couldn't believe it when he put it in my food plan. Like, one paddle pop, mate. What am I going to do with this? But nah, mate, bowls of ice cream now. I love it.
Yeah, fair enough. Then I wanted to ask you, you have a love for fighting, you're so experienced. Do you actually need to do much psychological prep these days, or is it just pretty second nature for you now?
Probably the only one I still like to do is, going over the fight in my head and visualizing. So I do a lot of visualization in that last probably couple of weeks, sort of trying to visualize shots landing. I visualize everything, the walkout, the fighting, try and really picture how my hand's going to feel when I make an impact on their head. I really try and visualize as much as I can my hand getting raised, how I'm going to react, how my corner's going to react, try and take it all in, you know, and really visualize. That's probably the biggest thing I do. Psychologically, as for the rest of it, I love fighting, so that sort of stuff doesn't bother me. Dealing with the nerves and that, it's not too bad now. I've done it that many times. It's just visualization. There's a lot of studies showing that can really help your performance and make you perform better. So it's something that I've sort of learned just before I qualify for the Olympics. So it's something I'm really big on now, and I do it before every fight. It's just visualization.
Yep. And what do you tell your fighters? I know everyone's different, but as a general sort of rule, what do you tell them to, like, how to handle the whole situation of coming out for a fight?
Try not to think about it too much. So before it, you know, days before it, don't be thinking about it. Just, you know, go about your normal life. And as soon as you start thinking about it, you know, your mind's so powerful. It's your most powerful thing. And if you can take control of it, you can control anything. So it's just being able to switch that off. So when you start thinking about it, you start getting nervous, being able to talk to yourself and go, this is not going to help me right now. Let's switch off. Let's not worry about it. We'll worry about it when time comes. And then when you're out training, you can start thinking about it again because you're putting it back into work, and then switch back off again when you're home or when you're sleeping. And then when it's time to go, when you're just about to walk out, that's when you want to start thinking about it. That's when we're getting switched on, and that's when you start thinking about it. Otherwise, you can get really lost in the what can happen, what if this happens, what if, you know, it doesn't help you, any of that stuff.
Yeah, man. And being a professional fighter, someone that's trained for, how long is it? You trained for, I wrote it down somewhere, I can't see it, but you've trained since 2008, wasn't it? Yeah. So you got 14, is that 14 years? Or no, 14 years. So you had a long time and obviously pretty intense, full on training for probably most of that time. I think there's probably a lot of things people can learn from you, man. I just wanted to ask you some, like, any tips that you give people, like, about just generally getting to the gym, staying healthy, you know, how to be successful at that, man. Like, what do you do, or how could you give someone advice that wanted to do more training, boxing, exercise, etc.?
I think of any exercise, I think the biggest thing is not just rocking up to the gym and doing it because it has to be done. Give yourself goals. So, you know, even if they don't have to be massive goals, they don't have to be going to the Olympic Games or anything like that. It can just be, you know, I want to lose this much weight by here. And then every week we'll give yourself a goal. I want to get to here. I want to get to here. Be goal driven and think about, well, it could be anything. It could be, if it's weights, and you could be thinking about, I want to get to lifting this much. I want to bench press 100 kilos, whatever it could be. Give yourself goals, write them down, take it all in. And then, you know, you're trying to achieve something every time you go to the gym, or, you know, if you want to run faster times. Everything I do running, I time it because I know, and then I get competitive in my mind every time I do it. So if I go for a run, and I can hear every kilometre how fast I'm going. Well, I know I'm going fucking shit here. I'm being lazy. Let's pick it up. So then I'll pick it up to the next one. And, you know, everything becomes competitive, and then you've always got goals. You know, for everything I do, I try and have little goals. So that'd be the biggest thing. That's what I do anyway. I'm very goal driven. So obviously my ones are fighting. So that's my goal at the end of training. My training camp is I have a fight. But, you know, you don't necessarily have to be there. It can be anything. Just weight loss, getting stronger, but try and pinpoint exactly what it is and write it down and achieve it.
And consistency is a big part, obviously, of the fighting game, right? Like, one of the biggest things in showing that someone's successful is that they consistently get there, consistently train. How do you, like, there's got to be days that you wake up feeling like shit, you know, having such a hectic schedule. How do you get out of bed? How do you get to the gym in your mind? How do you fight yourself?
100%, mate. Definitely. Once again, it's mind's thinking about, you know, I don't want to get my head punched in front of all my mates, do I? So that's my biggest thing, is going, if you don't run, there's nothing worse when you're, you know, like, you're fighting or you're sparring or whatever, and you're exhausted and the other bloke isn't. There is nothing worse. It is a horrible feeling because you know he's got heaps of energy and he's just going to keep punching your head in, and you're exhausted. You can't even keep your hands up. You can't even move your feet. It's a horrible time. So that's a big motivation for me, is I know if I don't get up and do this, I'm going to get my head punched in, and that's not what I want. But the other one is just if I don't get up and run, it'll fucking eat at me all day. It will fucking kill me, and I'll end up having to do it later on anyway. So it's like, get up and get it done. Otherwise, you're going to hate yourself. I'd rather get up and put myself through, 30 or 40 minutes of running or whatever it is than have to deal with myself fucking doing my own head in because I didn't do it, just going, you weak prick, you didn't do it, you fucking couldn't get out of bed. Like, I can't stand it. So I like fucking just get up and do it. And you just talk yourself into it, but you might be even I'll talk myself into it, I'll go, you can just run it slow today, don't worry about it. Just get out there and start running. And it's like, as soon as I start, and it's like, you fucking out here now, I'll put in. And it's like, you know what I mean? I was like, I always trick myself into doing things.
That's a good insight into the mind of a champion, man, because not everyone has these arguments with themselves. Like, they'll accept the lesser path, but you're trying to constantly achieve a little bit higher, push yourself that little bit further. So that's a good tip for people, man, to like have that mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one. That's what I try and tell guys that are struggling. If I've got fighters who aren't runners, they're like, I can't run. I'm like, I can start off run 3K. Doesn't matter what your time is, just run non-stop for 3K. Right, now let's run 4K. Right, now let's bring the times down. It's just little goals. Just keep getting them, keep winning, and just slowly get better and better.
Yeah.
I've got fighters at the gym that hate running, and then now they've got they've got them goals. Then they like getting up and running because they're trying to fucking get that time that I've given them. So they're running all the time. You know what I mean? So you start to enjoy yourself a little bit more with it because you're trying to achieve something.
Yeah. Makes sense, man. And last question I had, man, was, you mentioned that you wanted to be active and fight, around 6 times a year if you could. What are your plans for 2022? What are the plans for the future? Who's your ideal sort of opponents in the future?
Look, mate, I just want some tests, you know what I mean? Like, I want some good hard fights. I want to try and get another 3 fights in this year. I'm hoping to fight either June or July now. So, look, the biggest thing for me at the moment is just being active, but getting some tests. I want some hard fights. I don't want to be getting in and, full respect to anyone that I've fought, but especially, the guy on the weekend, like I said, I couldn't get an opponent. So he was the only one that sort of jumped up. There's a lot of people talk shit on the internet, and they're all tough guys on the internet. And, I'll fight him. Oh, why doesn't he fight this guy? It's like when the push comes to shove, they're not always there. So the biggest thing I'd like to be this year is active and just keep my working my way towards a world title or something like that. You know what I mean? My ideal fight, and the reason I'm in this and the reason I'm doing it is I want to get a world title. So that's what I'm here to do. And this year is sort of a stepping stone to get to that stage of my career, which will probably be next year. If I can get 4 fights in, if I'm sitting at 16, 17 and 0, I've got to be knocking on the door of getting a shot at one, you know what I mean? So, we've got Jai Opataya fighting for a world title. If he wins that, I'd love to fight him, you know what I mean? Like, straight 2 Australians. He's always talking shit on the internet. So, I'd love to punch him in the head for it. So it'd be great. And then get a world title at the same time. So, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to win a world title. That's what I want to do. That's the goal. So this year, I just want to try and be active, get some good hard tests under my belt, and then go from there.
Any particular belt that in your ideal scenario that you would get, like that you're chasing, or all of them?
Anyone, mate. Yeah, anyone.
Yeah.
The ideal. Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, just one quick question on the last thing too. To start the fight the other night, Rapha Hardman. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I didn't see it coming, to be honest. It just looked like maybe Hardman he just sort of started a bit slow and he just got caught with a shot, and that's boxing, you know what I mean? So, I love Hardman, man. I've had him at my gym. I've been up there and watched him spar up there. He's just, he reminds me a little bit of myself. Like, he's just straight down the line, loves fighting, no bullshit. I've got so much respect for him. I think he's great. He's great for the sport, and he just seems like he's just a tough dude. It doesn't take any bullshit, and I love that in people. So, it's a shame for him, and I'm sure he'll bounce back. He's only young. I think it was his 14th fight or something like that. So, and props to Michael Rapha too. Like, hopefully he can get himself a world title shot now. So,
yeah, man.
Yeah,
yeah, like you said, he's another guy like yourself that is a fighter at heart, and you wish these sort of guys in the Australian sort of style. We want you guys to get up,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like I said, mate, in person, he's an absolute legend, and hopefully we can see him back in the ring soon and knocking someone out and getting back into it.
That's it, man. I'd actually like to see him back in MMA, but I think it's going to be a while down the track if he ever comes back, because he seems to be doing pretty well with the boxing.
Yeah, that's right. He's doing well in it now, isn't he? Yeah. So, but like I said, he's ballsy, man. He jumps straight in, fighting light heavyweights and knocking light heavyweights out. And so, yeah, I'm sure he'll go well in the future. That's for sure.
That's it, man. All right. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, man. Look forward to watching your career and wishing you all success towards getting those belts in the future, man.
Thanks heaps, mate. Enjoyed the chat. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for your time, man. Bye-bye.